I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. My name is Clara Bennett, and that night didn't begin with a suspicion. It began with a thirst. It was 1:47 a.m. when I rolled onto my side and reached for the glass of water on the nightstand. But before my hand touched the glass, my husband's phone buzzed. The screen lit up like a spark in the dark, searing through the shadows of our bedroom. I wouldn't have looked. I didn't want to look. But my eyes, bleary burning, locked onto the words without permission. My silky tiger, I miss you already. 2 unforgettable nights. The words slid into my chest like broken glass. My hand stopped midair, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. 2 nights. 2 nights he was supposed to be in Denver for a work summit. While I was home, making chicken soup and helping our daughter Emily revise for her history quiz, Grant was with someone else wrapped in sheets and secrets. The name Grant used to make my stomach flutter. That night it made it churn. I got up and stumbled to the bathroom. The tile was cold under my bare feet good. I needed something to shock me out of the fog. I splashed cold water on my face and stared into the mirror. What looked back at me wasn't me. Pale, stunned lips trembling. Eyes like I'd just seen a ghost. 17 years, I whispered. 17 years, and this. Back in the bedroom, Grant lay peacefully, one arm tucked under the pillow like a man with nothing to hide. I watched him sleep for a long minute. Then something in me just clicked. Not an explosion, not a scream, just a quiet snap inside like a wire breaking. At sunrise, he shuffled into the kitchen in his robe, pouring coffee like it was just another Tuesday. I watched him butter toast with the same fingers that probably touched her. My hand twitched around the coffee mug. "You look tired," he said without looking up. "Yeah," I replied. "Had a dream. Everything I believed in turned out to be a lie." He paused, then smiled. "Dreams are weird like that. But we're real, Clara. You and me were solid." I smiled back. Hollow. He kissed my cheek like it meant something. Then he grabbed his briefcase and left for work. Or somewhere else. I didn't care anymore. I picked up my phone and called the only person who'd never let me down. "Hey, Sabrina," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can we meet for coffee?" She didn't ask why, just told me she'd meet me in 20. When I walked into Meadow and Main, our usual spot, the smell of cinnamon and baked bread should have comforted me. It didn't. Sabrina, my best friend since college, the godmother to my daughter, the sister I never had, was already waiting in our usual booth. Her hair curled just right, nails immaculate, soft smile ready. "You look like hell," she said, half laughing. "What happened?" "Grant's cheating on me." Her fingers froze on her coffee cup. I pulled out my phone and showed her the message. She stared too long, too hard, and something shifted. In that moment, I didn't have proof, just a feeling. Something in her silence, in the flicker of her eyes. Maybe it was guilt or fear. And I was the idiot who thought we were the unshakable ones. Sabrina looked fast. Maybe it's not what it looks like. I stared at her. Why are you defending me? I'm not. I'm just... You can do anything you regret. I stood up. I regret staying there. Her lips parted like she might protest, but nothing came out. I left her there, still holding her. I laid out the night I was packed. I hadn't told the kids yet. Emily was still on her school trip, and our son Caleb was due home from college that weekend. But I was done pretending. Clothes, toiletries, favorite books. Emily's starry pajamas. I packed it all. But I forgot her school reading packet. It was still in the front hall closet. I cursed softly, then turned the car around. I told myself I'd be quick. Grab the packet. Get out. The house was dim. Still. Too still. As I reached for the closet door, I heard the front door unlock. My heart slammed against my ribs. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. I moved fast toward the back, hoping to slip out unnoticed. Then I heard it. A woman's voice. "Don't be so nervous," Grant said, chuckling. "She has no idea." "I don't know," the woman replied. She seemed different this morning, like she knew something. That voice, that soft, familiar voice. Sabrina. I froze. Ice-cold panic flooded my veins. They laughed. Footsteps moved upstairs. To our bedroom. Each creak of the staircase hit like a slap. Grant used to carry me up those stairs when we were young and stupid and in love. Something snapped inside me again. But this time, it wasn't quiet. I climbed the stairs. Slow, steady, hand trailing the banister like I was steadying myself for the impact. The bedroom door was ajar. Light spilled out. I pushed it open. Grant froze. Shirt half unbuttoned. Sabrina, my best friend, stood by the bed, her face pale hair, disheveled eyes wide. "It's not what it looks like," Grant blurted. I tilted my head. "Really?" "Because it looks like my husband and my best friend were about to screw each other in my bed." Sabrina opened her mouth, then closed it. "Don't," I snapped. "You don't get to speak my name right now." They stood like statues, guilt thick in the air. I walked to my closet, grabbed the last suitcase, and turned back. "I'm taking the kids," I said. "You two can have each other. Enjoy your little jungle." Grant reached for me. "Clara, please don't." I looked him in the eye. "It's exactly what I think." And I walked out. The road blurred beneath my tires, headlights catching patches of fog and fallen leaves as I drove away from the house that no longer felt like mine. I didn't remember putting the address in the GPS or stopping for gas, but I found myself pulling into a half-lit station on the edge of Greenville just before midnight. The place looked like it had time-traveled from 1,987 buzzing fluorescent signs, dusty windows, a rack of faded postcards in the corner. I stepped out of the car and blinked against the cold. My hands trembled as I slid my credit card into the pump. Then I noticed something wetness on my cheeks. Crying. I hadn't realized I was crying. "Rough night." The voice came from the small building behind me. I turned. The man behind the counter looked like he belonged in a Norman Rockwell painting, plaid shirt, scruffy beard, gentle eyes. Not young, but not old either. Just there, calm. Present. I wiped at my face. "Is it that obvious?" He shrugged. "Most people don't cry while pumping gas." I gave a tired laugh. "Well, I like to multitask." He nodded once. "Want a coffee?" "On the house." Something about the way he said it, not too soft, not too pitying, made me say yes. Inside the station smelled like cinnamon and motor oil. He handed me a paper cup, poured dark roast from a pot that looked older than both of us, and gestured to a tiny table near the window. "I'm Jude," he said. "Owner, cashier, part-time therapist." "Clara," I replied, clutching the warm cup. "Betrayed wife, runaway mom, amateur detective." We sat in a silence that didn't need to be filled. For the first time that day, I didn't feel like I had to perform. Jude didn't ask questions. He didn't offer advice. He just sat with me, and when I finally spoke, the words came in a flood. I told him everything. Grant's text, the voice at the door, Sabrina's laughter on the stairs, the image of them about to defile the place where I used to dream. "They were together," I whispered. "And not just now. I think they've always been." He sipped his coffee. "You think it started before you? I don't know," I said. But I can't stop thinking about how fast she looked away, like she'd been waiting years to get caught. Jude leaned back in his chair. "Sometimes the people closest to us carry the sharpest knives." That hit harder than I wanted to admit. We talked until the clock behind the register clicked past 1 a.m. Then he walked me to my car and held the door like it was the most natural thing in the world. "If you ever need more coffee, or a place to catch your breath," he said. "This station's open late." I gave him a nod. Not a promise, but maybe a possibility. The road to my parents' house in Asheville was quiet, coiled between trees that rose like shadows. When I finally pulled into their driveway, I sat for a moment staring at the front porch light. Everything looked the same. But I wasn't. My mother met me at the door, hair pinned up, robe tied neatly, face unreadable. She didn't ask anything, just stepped aside and said, "You can take the guest room. I'll make up the bed." My daughter Emily was already curled beneath her childhood blanket, and my son Caleb had driven home from college early. He hugged me at the top of the stairs, tight and silent, like he didn't need to hear the story to know it hurt. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, and for a brief moment, I let myself believe the world was ordinary again. Until my mother set a plate of pancakes in front of me and said I invited Grant. "He's coming this afternoon." I stared at her. "You did what?" She folded her napkin. "He's your husband. You two need to talk." "No," I said. "We don't. Not now. Not here." Her lips thinned into a line I remembered from childhood. "Clara, all men stray now and then. It doesn't mean you throw the whole house away." I pushed my chair back, heartbeat pounding in my ears. "He's been sleeping with my best friend." Her face didn't change. "That's still your marriage. And that's supposed to mean what? That I pretend it didn't happen. That you fight for it." I stood. "I've been fighting for 17 years. I'm not going another round." She didn't argue. Just looked down, disappointed, in that quiet maternal way that makes you feel like a teenager again. Later, I sat in the garden with Emily. She was sketching tulips, lips pursed in concentration. "Is Daddy coming back?" she asked without looking up. "No, sweetheart. Not like before." She nodded, kept sketching. That night I filled out the divorce paperwork. The court date arrived sooner than I expected. Savannah was gray and cold that morning, the courthouse towering above me like it had swallowed 1,000 other stories like mine. I wore a navy blazer I hadn't touched in years. My heels pinched. My heart did worse. Grant was already seated at the table, looking hollowed out, paler than usual. We didn't speak. The proceedings blurred. Lawyers droned about assets, bank accounts, and the house. Then Grant stood. I waive my right to everything he said. The house, the cars, the accounts. It all goes to Clara and the kids. Gasps rippled through the room. Even my attorney blinked. "Mr. Bennett, the judge asked you, understand what you're saying." He nodded. Yes. I couldn't speak. I didn't know if it was guilt, pity, or his last attempt to control the narrative. But I didn't care. And then I saw her. Sabrina. She had slipped in through the side door, face-drawn coat buttoned up to her chin, sitting alone like she was trying to disappear into the walls. She didn't look at Grant. He didn't look at her. Something between them had ended. Or maybe it had just been exposed. When it was over, I didn't speak to him. I walked past both of them and stepped out into the wind. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I just kept walking. The townhouse smelled like paint and new beginnings. Most of the boxes were still taped shut. The walls were blank, but the air felt like mine. After 17 years of breathing around someone else's moods and silences, this air was pure freedom. Caleb carried in a heavy box labeled kitchen and dropped it with a theatrical grunt. "Where do you want this?" "Anywhere but the stairs," I said with a tired smile. Emily followed close behind, holding up a canvas. "Look, Mom." For the living room, it was a mess of color, red and yellow swirling into deep cobalt. Chaotic, beautiful, hopeful, abstract, she added proudly. "It's perfect," I said, and I meant it. That night, after they were asleep, I opened one last box from the old house. Photos, letters, and college keepsakes. I hadn't touched it in years. I should have left it sealed. But something pulled me to the bottom, where a bundle of envelopes lay tied with a ribbon that had faded to gray. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Sabrina's, Each letter was addressed to Grant, postmarked from nearly 2 decades ago, a year before I met him. The first one began, simply, "I miss you. Why won't you write back the second you promised you'd wait for me?" The third was more bitter. "If you've moved on, just say so." The final envelope held a photo. Sabrina and Grant, teenagers tangled together at some summer fair. She wore a sundress. He looked sunburned and foolishly in love. My breath caught. This wasn't a fling. This was a history I never knew existed. The room blurred. I sat back, the letters falling into my lap. My hands felt cold. Were they ever over each other? Did I ever stand a chance? I thought I was the main character of our love story. Maybe I'd just been the plot twist. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I drove to the one person who might give me the truth, Grant's mother, Doris. She opened the door wearing a cardigan and a cautious smile, her eyes flickering with surprise. "Clara," she said, "this is unexpected. Can I come in?" She nodded. Her home still smelled like lemon polish and old books. I'd always liked her house. Until now. "Did you know about Grant and Sabrina?" I asked, skipping any pretense. Her mouth twitched. "That was a long time ago. But it happened." "Yes," she admitted with a sigh. "They were neighbors. Inseparable for a while. But then we moved. Grant sent letters for months. Never got a reply." "That's not true." She blinked. "He never got hers number," she wrote. "A lot." I pulled out the letters and dropped them on the table between us. Her fingers trembled as she picked one up. "Oh my God." I leaned forward. "Who else lived with you then?" "My mother," she said slowly. "But—" Why I handed her the final envelope. It wasn't from Sabrina. It was from her grandmother to Sabrina's mother. I've intercepted all the letters. She doesn't need distractions like that boy. Let her think he moved on. She deserves someone better. The silence in the room stretched long and cold. Doris put a hand to her chest. "They never knew." "No," I said. "They didn't." Driving home, I couldn't stop thinking, was I the rebound, the second choice? Or had something real formed between Grant and me, despite how it started? That night, I sat on my back porch, the sky wide and quiet. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the screen, then tapped his number. He answered on the second ring. "Clara, I found the letters," I said. "And the truth." Silence. "I think you and Sabrina spent 20 years believing you were abandoned, but someone made sure you never had a chance." He exhaled, shaky. "So it was real." "Yes." He didn't apologize. Didn't ask me to come back. He just said, "Thank you for telling me," and hung up. No theatrics. Just the truth dropped like a stone in still water. 2 days later, Sabrina showed up at my door. No mascara, no earrings, no performance. She looked old, not in years, but in sorrow. Regret makes people look different. She stood there clutching her coat. "I need to talk." "I don't," I said, but something in her voice stopped me. Not guilt. Not even desperation. Just exhaustion. I let her in. We sat across the kitchen table like adversaries after a long war. "I loved him," she said. "I know. Before you even met him. You were kids." "He was my first everything," she whispered. "And when he moved away and I never heard from him again, I thought, he forgot me, replaced me." "You became my friend," I said, voice tight. "Why, at first?" "To be near him." She didn't flinch. "But then I started to love you too. As a friend, as a family. That part wasn't fake. But you still slept with him." Her mouth opened. "It wasn't planned. It was 3 months ago. His company's holiday party. Too much wine. One thing led, don't I snapped. Don't give me the blurry details." She went silent. "I'm not here to justify it," she said. "I just needed you to know it wasn't some long affair. It was one night, and we both knew better." "Did he say he loved you?" She hesitated. Did he? Yes, she whispered. After you left, he came to me. He said he didn't know what he wanted. You believed that was love, she didn't answer. You clung to a ghost of a boy who never got to grow up, I said. You think I don't know what that feels like? To keep choosing someone who stopped choosing you. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought if we ever had our chance, she said, it would feel like home, but it didn't. It felt wrong, like we were play acting. You were. She nodded. I'm moving to Seattle, got a job. I need to be where everything doesn't remind me of what I ruined. I didn't hug her. Didn't cry. I just watched her walk away, the door clicking shut behind her like punctuation on a chapter long overdue. Later that night, my mom came over. She stood in my kitchen, arms folded, studying me like I was made of new pieces. You're doing this, she said. I already did. She nodded slowly. I used to think strength meant staying, but I see now sometimes it means walking away. She placed a hand on my shoulder. Whatever happens next, I'm proud of you. After she left, I picked up my phone. Texted Jude dinner this weekend. Just you and me. No ghosts. His reply came fast. Saturday. I'll bring wine. You bring stories. For the first time in a long time, I looked forward to something. Saturday came with rain. Not a storm. Just the soft kind that made everything feel like it had been gently washed clean. I lit candles in the dining room. Not for romance, but warmth. A kind of welcome. Jude arrived 5 minutes early, holding a bottle of Pinot Noir and a loaf of sourdough wrapped in parchment. I come bearing carbs, he said, with that crooked smile that used to feel dangerous, but now felt safe. We didn't talk about the past right away. We made pasta from scratch. Rolled dough, burned garlic, laughed. When we finally sat down to eat, he raised his glass. To freedom, yours. I clicked it. And to the people who help you pack. He took a sip, then set his glass down carefully. You okay? Yeah, I said. Number both. Jude nodded. I figured. The silence stretched, but not in a bad way. I didn't tell you this before, I said, but when Grant proposed, I almost said no. He blinked. Seriously? Yeah. I think part of me always knew he loved someone else. I just didn't know her name yet. And when did you find out? The day Sabrina looked me in the eye and said she was finally ready to forgive him. I smiled bitterly. She never even said for what. He leaned forward. You want me to say something reassuring? Or real? Real. You were too good for both of them. I laughed. Thanks, therapist Jude. Anytime. Then his face changed. More serious. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't drifted? You moved to Boston. You got engaged. You ghosted me for 3 years. He smiled ruefully. Okay, that's fair. I wrote you letters, I said. You never answered. He looked confused. Letters, I never got any. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Wait, what, I thought you were done with me, he said. Especially after the wedding invite. I mailed 3, I said slowly. To your old place. Your parents' house. Even your office. I changed jobs that year, he said. And my mom. She was angry at me for breaking things off with Elise. She probably did what people do, I finished. Intercepted the story. He met my eye. Quiet for a while, finishing dinner. The rain tapped gently on his lips. Then I said it. What would have happened if I'd stayed in touch? He shrugged. Maybe we'd be married. Maybe we'd be divorced. He would have been honest. That made it hard. I stood, walked to the house, box of Polaroids, dropped them on the table, faced around. Every photo that still made me smile myself, even the ones with him in it, because I was happy then, and I'm not going to erase myself from my own story. He thumbed through the photos, pausing on one where I was laughing, sunburned and freckled, wearing a floppy straw hat and sunglasses too big for my face. You look like someone who's not afraid of starting over, he said. I wasn't back then. Are you now? I'm tired, I admitted. But no, not afraid. He held up the photo. You should frame this. Why? Because it's proof of what he looked up at me. That joy isn't something people give you, it's something you find or fight for. And maybe that was the difference. Grant had made me feel chosen, but Jude made me feel like I belonged to myself. He helped me with the dishes, and when he left, he didn't kiss me, just squeezed my hand. No promises, no performances, just space to breathe. That night, I tucked Emily in. She rolled over eyes half shut and mumbled, You're smiling more now. I froze. You noticed that? She nodded. It's nice. I turned off the lamp, kissed her forehead, and whispered, Thanks for noticing. In the weeks that followed, I did things slowly. Relearned routines, joined a pottery class, got a library card, took Emily on mother-daughter brunch dates. And Jude, he showed up. Not with flowers, but with questions, with playlists, with silence when I needed it. One evening, he came over with a book I'd mentioned loving years ago. A first edition. I stared at it like it was fragile glass. I remembered, he said simply. I didn't think you'd still think of me. I never stopped, he said. I just got lost. We sat on the couch side by side. The rain had returned gentle and rhythmic. I'm not ready for a relationship, I said. I know, but I like this. Me too. Then I reached for his hand and held it not for what it might mean, but for what it already did. And in that moment, it felt enough. Not perfect, not dramatic, not borrowed from someone else's story. The summer came slowly stretching itself across Greenville like a soft quilt. The air smelled of honeysuckle and sun-warmed pavement, and the evenings lingered golden and quiet. I had been in my townhouse for nearly a year. It wasn't big or fancy, but every drawer, every creaky floorboard felt like mine. I had even started sleeping without checking my phone. One Friday afternoon, I picked up Emily from art camp. She held a rolled-up canvas, grinning. I made something for you, she said proudly. At home, I unrolled it in the kitchen. Bright reds and purples splashed across the page, chaotic and free. In the corner, she'd written in uneven block letters, strong like mom. My throat tightened. She'd seen me fall, and she'd watched me rise. That night, Jude brought over dinner takeout from a new Greek place. We ate on the back porch with citronella candles flickering between us. I told him about Emily's painting. She's watching everything you know, he said. I know. You've given her the best kind of lesson how to lose something and not lose yourself. I didn't respond. I just reached across the table and took his hand. In late July, I ran into Grant at the grocery store. He looked thinner, more tired, but still wore that same crisp button-down he always favored for appearances. His smile faltered when he saw me. I gave him a short nod and pushed my cart forward. Cassie, he said, stepping into my path. Can I say something? I looked at him, really looked. Not with rage, not with longing, just with a calm I had earned the hard way. Sure, I said. I was wrong, he said softly. About everything. I thought I needed more, but the truth is, I was just too cowardly to appreciate what I had. I nodded slowly. I believe you, he blinked. That's it. There's nothing left to fix, I said. We've already lived through the explosion. Now we live through the quiet. He looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. You seem happy. I am, I said, and it was the truth. At checkout, I watched him walk away, his steps a little heavier than before. I didn't feel triumphant, just free. When I got home, I found a letter in the mailbox addressed in careful handwriting. Sabrina. I hadn't spoken to her since that night. The night the silence said more than any apology ever could. I sat on the front step, turned the envelope over in my hands, and finally opened it. Inside was a single page. Cassie, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve your attention. I just wanted you to know that I'm leaving. A job in Denver, a fresh start. I hurt you and I hate that. But you were always the one who made people feel like they mattered. You made me feel like I mattered even when I didn't deserve it. I hope someone does the same for you now. Sabrina, I didn't cry, but I felt something uncoil inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet. But peace. That weekend, Jude and I took Emily to Asheville. We hiked a trail that opened to a ridge where the mountains layered into the distance smoky and blue. Emily stood at the edge, arms out like wings. It looks like forever out there, she said. It does, Jude said beside her. And suddenly, I knew we weren't just healing. We were becoming. A few nights later, as summer folded into August, I opened the last box from my old life. Inside was a framed photo of our wedding. Mine and Grant's. I stared at it for a long time, then gently slid it out, removed the photo, and replaced it with Emily's painting. I hung it in the hallway. One night after Emily had gone to bed, I walked out to the porch with a glass of wine. Jude joined me without a word. We didn't need to say much. The stars shimmered overhead. I leaned my head on his shoulder. Do you ever think about the version of us that could have been all the time, he said. Do you miss them? Sometimes, he said, brushing my fingers with his. But I like this version more. She's stronger, I smiled. So was he. And we sat there, two people who had survived betrayal, silence, and all the ways the world had tried to break us and still chose to stay soft. Not naive, just open. The next morning, Emily left a sticky note on the fridge. Mom, can Jude come to the family breakfast? P.S. I made pancakes. They're weird, sorry, I laughed. And wrote back, of course. Weird pancakes are kind of our thing now. That's how healing happened for me. Not in one great moment, but in 100 small ones. A shared coffee. An apology that came too late. A hike to a quiet view. A painting from a child who saw more than I realized. And in every one of them, I was there. There. Alive. Whole. And finally home. Betrayal didn't destroy me. It broke something, yes. But in the pieces, I found something far more honest than the life I had before. What began as devastation turned into a deep reckoning about trust, about love, about who I was when no one else was looking. Grant and Sabrina taught me what false comfort feels like. The kind that looks good in pictures, but quietly hollows you out. They weren't villains, just flawed people who chose cowardice over courage. But I don't carry their shame anymore. Jude reminded me what it means to be seen without performance. He never rushed me, never tried to fix me. He just stood still until I was ready to move again. And when I did, he was still there. And Emily, my daughter, my mirror, my reminder, she saw me break and still called me strong. Maybe that's what matters most. Not staying unbroken, but letting the people we love see us rebuild. There's a kind of beauty in the aftermath. Not the neat, happy ending kind, but the real kind. The kind that grows in quiet moments, in new friendships, in imperfect pancakes. I don't know what comes next. But I do know this. I'm not afraid to find out. I don't wait for the other shoe to drop anymore. I wear both shoes. And I walk forward, one sunrise at a time.